Greetings everyone, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and being here today. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. I hope you find these tutorials helpful for you. This week we'll focus on painting an ocean scene, like a beach ocean scene with some palm trees, and it's gonna have some dramatic clouds. So we're gonna have fun and see, as always, how it's gonna turn out and what will happen. And thank you to my patrons who help me vote on a topic each week. I appreciate you guys. Let's get straight to it and go over the materials needed for today. For canvas, we need a 16 by 20 inch canvas, or this is a 14 by 20. So I bought this canvas from a local store here in Florence, Italy, and it's a 14 by 20, so it's a couple inches shorter. But any canvas will do. Now this canvas has like a rough texture to it, the canvas itself, so it'll be interesting to test out and see how this will work, but whatever you have available will do. But that is what I'm using for today. We need a water jar, a palette, and I'm using a palette paper. Once I'm done, I just bunch it up and throw it away. A lot easier, saves a lot of time. I recommend it. And we need a palette knife to mix your paint. We need some paper towels, and if you have this, a hair blow dryer to dry out your first coats, and I'll show you. But if you don't, that's okay. You can, take a break, let it sit and dry for, about 30 minutes. Acrylics dries around that time, 30 to an hour, depending on how thick you put the layer. But the way we do it, the way I paint and work, it's around like 20 to 30 minutes. If you're using it without a hair blow dryer for it to dry, just to keep in mind. All right, let's go over the brushes we need. First is the blending brushes. I like to use two, and we need, they're basically the same thing, just different color. We need a couple of these for blending. Some of these Artist Loft brushes, this is a number 8, and this is a number 4. Any 1/2 inch flat brush, and any detail brush. And that's it for brushes. For paint, today I'm going to use my 5 primary colors, which are titanium white, cadmium medium yellow, naphthol medium red, ultramarine blue, and carbon black. But I also would like to remind you that these 24 colors that I recently released, they are available on Amazon. You could use these as well. They're a lot cheaper, also good quality as well. I just wanted to make these affordable for those that cannot afford the 5 primary colors that I offer. But from this set, they're the same thing. There's titanium white if you are using it from this paint set. Medium yellow right here, Scarlet, Ultramarine Blue, and Lamb Black. And you could also play around. There's a lot of different shades from here. You could also, mess around with some of these colors here into your sky or reflection on the water. Totally up to you. But again, any of the sets will work for these tutorials. All these materials that I'm using here today and more, there's links to them down below in the description if you're interested. Alright, before we start mixing our paint in our palette, I'm going to quickly describe what we're going to do here so you can kind of get an idea. So we're going to have like a ocean be right here, right? Maybe a little bit, like almost in the middle. We'll see. We'll play around with the length here, right? The ocean's going to come here, and this is where the shore will be, the sand, and the sand will be here, and then some palm trees on this side, on the right side, and the clouds are going to be pretty stormy and dramatic looking, and I'm guessing it's going to be either a sunrise or a sunset. We'll see what happens, but that's the plan. Now let's just start mixing our colors and see what happens and have fun. Let's pick up our titanium white, and we're going to create about 4 to 5 colors, right? So we're going to start from this corner, and we're going to add about 2 thumbs amount, or a thumb and a half, whatever you think, whatever your size canvas. If it's bigger, obviously add a little more. And I'm going to create 4 colors here, right? Let's start with that. Let's quickly mix that with other colors, and then if we need to, we can always add more. But about this much. Now let's pick up our yellow, and we're going to add it on the first one. Very small amount, not that much. Right here, maybe a little bit here as well. Very small amount right there. Okay. And then now the red, we're going to add a little bit here, and then a little bit here, like this. Also a small amount. And our ultramarine blue, we're going to add a little bit here, and I'm guessing another one right in here for fun. About this much, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna mix these colors, and then I'm gonna take part of this a little bit and mix it in with this. But I'm also gonna add a little bit of black, a small touch, very, very little amount of black right there, okay? Let's start mixing. Start with the lightest color real quick and use your palette knife to mix everything in nicely. Okay, and the sky's going to be a little bit dramatic, so don't spend too much time trying to make these perfect. This will be our base coat of the background sky. We always start from the furthest distance up until the closest, which is the sky, clouds, and then the far land, and then the ocean and the sand and the trees, all that stuff, okay? So keep that in mind. And our sky is going to be a little bit dramatic and maybe cloudy and stuff like that, so the colors don't have to be perfectly mixed, okay? Because we're going to be doing a lot of adding on and having fun with our shades. So quickly mix that in as a base coat, about like that. Next will be a little bit pink, darker pink. Basically, we're creating a nice smooth transition from lightest to darkest. And then even this blue could be lighter than this pink. We'll see. If it's not, that's fine. Quickly mix that in. Don't need to clean your palette. Okay, remember when I said I'm going to take part of this and mix it in with this last blue? I'm going to take part of this and mix it in with this last color here quickly, and that'll give us a almost bluish gray color because we added a little bit of black into it, okay? There you go. So about this much. Let's quickly add all these colors to our canvas, and we're going to probably cover maybe half of the canvas and quickly blend everything in, okay, as a background. Now I always like to clean my palette knife with a paper towel. Don't spend too much time, just quickly clean it like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? There you go. Now let's pick up our water right here and any of our blending brushes. We have 2 of them, but any of them will work. So dab it in the water, okay? And the reason why, because it works very nicely. It gives you a lot of time to, blend in the colors with the acrylics, and for them not to dry faster. That's why I like to use water. Okay, so dab it in all the way and then squeeze it out so you won't have too much, but water's still in there. Don't squeeze it out all the way, okay? And you might, practice back and forth, doing this. Now, I know like some of you might have only one blending brush, so I recommend not using that blending brush to do this part. If you have another brush to lay down the colors first quickly, then use that brush to do that. I like to use this. I've tried different brushes, but I like to use this because I am able to still work a little bit of blending and swirling in the colors and blending it in, and I'll show you. But you can, use your any brush you have available, and then if you have one of these brushes, use dry to blend everything in. and that works best because these are very delicate, so you have to take good care of them and work soft with them, okay? So again, I'm dabbing my brush in water lightly, squeezing it a little bit, so I still have some water in there, right? And now I'm gonna pick up my lightest color right here and randomly add that in right in the middle. Okay, see, because of water, and I'm always dabbing my brush in the water, just the tip, okay, just the tip. Now this canvas, I haven't painted with this canvas before, so it's a little bit more rough. I'm just experimenting with this canvas. We'll see how it's going to turn out. So about right there, okay? Now, again, I'll show you what I'm doing. Every time I pick up new paint, I'm just dabbing the tip in the water like this, okay? So that it'll run smoothly. And I'm going to pick up my next color and randomly add that in there. And this time I'm going to have fun, maybe even go up here a little bit, who knows. Let's go up a little bit here. And now I'm gonna go into the pink and add the pink in here. Not gonna make it perfect, okay? Because remember, we're gonna make it dramatic. We're gonna make it look very, very dramatic. So now the blue, okay, maybe some in here, okay, and now our final color. And I'm not going to dab my brush in the water because I have a little bit of water in there already, so it runs smoothly. You have to feel it out, and you can practice, you know, just practice to feeling how much water. If you see water, you know, it's, you know, you could see through the canvas, then you have too much water. Make sure you don't have that much water, okay? And then squeeze it out. But if it feels soft, that's the way it should feel, okay? So now I'm using my final color and adding in the final colors right on top. So right about there. You could see I randomly added, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because this is our base, so we're not gonna, maybe even add it right in here like this. Okay, this blue right here, maybe add some right in here as well. Who knows? Okay, just like that. You can see it's a rough layout right there, but now I'm gonna put my brush down, and then I'm gonna pick up my dry blending brush, my second one, right? It's soft and dry, and I'm going to quickly blend this in. And so I'm going to start with the lightest area, and it doesn't have to be perfect because, again, this is just the base coat, right? But we want to take away some of these brush strokes, right, from the sky, so it won't look like a mess, right? We want a little bit of a smoother transition. Now, while my background is wet because of water, I added water, it gives me some time to spend to blend, and I'm softly, you know, pressing and swirling my brush softly. Start with the lighter colors, and you don't need to even, you know, just go over the rough parts. Leave some of the paint like the way it is. We laid it out. Yours could look a little bit different. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine, okay? But keep in mind that it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna add more detail to our sky. But you could see I'm roughly, softly, I mean, very lightly, barely pressing the canvas, adding in my, blending in everything in, just like that. So I'm going over the lighter areas first. And take away all the brush strokes, the ones you don't want on your canvas. Gently, I'm barely pressing, remember, barely pressing. Okay. just like that. You see, a nice quick blend. Okay. Now we see that our sky, you know, isn't so rough, but we can kind of see the clouds and the shapes of our clouds forming, right? So we want that. So now what I'm going to do is quickly clean out my brushes while this dries, and then we're going to add more detail to our sky. Also, I'd like to remind you, like sometimes you lose some of the hairs from the brush, especially when the brush is new. You have to break it down, and actually over time it fluffs up and it works a lot better and you won't lose as much. But in the beginning, or if you do lose a few, right? I have like one here, maybe two, right? I'm not gonna bother, I'm not gonna even worry about trying to pluck it out, because if you try to pluck it out while the paint is still wet, you're gonna create a mess and you're gonna scratch off the paint and all that stuff. So don't worry about it, let it dry, and then when you use the hairball dryer, I'll show you how to take them out very easily. You just gently scratch them off, and they sometimes when you use a hairball dryer they come off right away, but other times you just use a hairball dryer and softly scratch it off, and it doesn't damage the paint because the paint is already dry. So and it comes off really easily, so that's not a problem. Just to keep in mind, don't struggle trying to take them off while the paint is still wet. Let them on there. Focus on blending, getting everything in first, and then you can, you know, easily take them off. But I'll show you how to do that. I've got a few here, and then we will continue. All right, I cleaned my water and cleaned my brushes and got a new water right here, and my paint is still a little bit wet, as you can see. So this is where I'm gonna come in and finish drying with a hairball dryer. I'm gonna quickly dry it out, and like I said, some of these, I have a couple of the hairs here. Some of the hairs will fly out naturally, or if they won't, wait till it dries and then just lightly scratch it off and it'll come off. And so I'm gonna dry it out, and then if I still have any, I'll show you for example. Okay, my canvas is dry, and some of the hairs that I had here that were loose, they flew out. But for example, this one almost flew out. You could see right here. I'm gonna scratch it off gently and pull it out, and it doesn't damage anything, and it becomes clean, and you have a clean canvas right there. All right, let's continue. Now you could leave this background the way you want it if you'd like and continue and move forward, but I want to add a few dramatic clouds, more sharper clouds, right? Totally up to you though, but you could totally leave the sky the way it is if you like it, okay? But what I added here to continue adding more details in our sky and clouds, I added white straight out of the tube, yellow, a little bit of blue, and a touch of red right there. And what I'm going to do is, with this yellow, I have some leftover. I don't want to let it go to waste. I'm just going to take this orange, mix it in with this yellow here, right, for fun. Okay, mix it in, and then I'm going to take this darkest color right here, mix it in right in here. Okay. Make sure it's like a purple color, not brown. Or like a gray, darker gray color, okay? That's what we want for the darker tones in our sky. We don't want it too dark though, because we're gonna add some palm trees and it's gonna blend in with the dark palm trees. We want the palm trees to stand out, so keep that in mind, okay? So make sure it's not too dark, okay? So we have this, and also I'm going to clean my palette knife real quick, and I'm going to take part of this white, just part of it, and this blue that I have left over here, right? I'm going to bring it here and mix it in with this color. Now if you run out of your colors, it's just add a little bit of ultramarine blue and you're good. We just want a lighter blue for fun. We might use it, okay? And I would like to actually add a little bit of red as well. I'm looking at the colors and I'm thinking, well, I think a darker red would look pretty cool. So I'm going to quickly clean my palette knife like this onto my paper towel, and then take whatever pink you have left, mix it in with the red. We're going to make a darker, like a darker pink, okay? Like that. Now we have some color to play around with. And if you are using my 24 set of acrylics, you can look and see if any of these colors you have on there that could work, okay? Now let us clean the palette knife, and we're going to start with a number 4 brush. We're going to dab it in the water all the way. Make sure it's nice and damp, okay? Make sure it's nice and damp, because that'll soften your brushes and make it run smooth onto your canvas. And now your canvas is fully dry, so we can add more details to our clouds. So first thing what we're going to do is start with the light colors. Let's start with this yellow. I want to start with this nice yellow, and we're going to add it right, let's add it right in here randomly. Okay, maybe skip some, who knows. And you could use your finger to lightly blend it out, but we don't want it too perfect. And let's maybe go up a little bit like this and fade it out, okay? Fade it out. Let's continue, maybe some in here. Okay, like that. All right, those are far away clouds. We're shaping everything out first. So now I'm going to add some in here and blend it out like this randomly. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just having fun and adding color to our sky. You could use your finger to blend it out if you'd like, but that is good right there. I'm not going to add too much for now. Maybe a little bit here for fun. All right. And on this side as well to balance it out. Since my brush is damp, right? Okay. All right, that's good right there. We'll come back and add some more later. But now let's add the pink. So this hot pink that we have mixed. Let's pick some of that up. And I want to add it, I want to add some right in here. So I'm going to dab my brush in the water lightly. And if it's too much, make sure you dab it onto your paper plate or palette paper, I mean, so you won't be picking too much, or dab it into your paper towel to clean it out a bit. But we want to create some clouds that are, you know, connecting with this yellow. Okay. Now I'm randomly adding, I don't have a plan. So I'm going to dab my brush in the water again and pick some of this pink up and continue adding maybe some in here. Maybe it goes in here, connects with this yellow right in here. Alright, and fade it out. And it's okay if you have some yellow added in there as well. Okay, now we're moving on, and let's add this pink in here. Maybe continue on with this hot pink. Like that, all right? And I'm pressing a little bit harder on the edges to blend it in, blend it out with my background color, okay? So I'm going to continue. I'm going to dab my brush in the water and then dab it onto my paper towel so I won't be having too much water on there. So it could be damp. And I'm going to pick more of this pink color, and I think I'm going to add some red in here. Okay, I'm going to add some by themselves, maybe like this. And then fade it out right in here. Okay. Continue on with the same technique and this pink and add it wherever you'd like it to be. So maybe some here. Lightly. Okay, and I'm gonna try to bring some of this into my yellow here. Okay, and if you don't like yours, the way you drew your, then you can always come back and change it up by adding adding more of that yellow. Remember, we have mix, so pick up some yellow or even a little bit of white, mix it in, totally up to you. But I'm going to use this white, or this yellow, blend it in right in here, maybe make it a little more intense, who knows. Okay, I'm randomly adding like that. Okay, now it's starting to look a little bit like a nice, stormy clouds right there further away in the distance, right? We want to make it look like that. All right, so now I'm going to change. I'm going to use this dark color, remember? Now I want to make it dark on some of these areas, so I wanted to make it dark right in here, like a dark cloud, right? So I'm going to dab my brush in the water and make sure it's damp, and then pick up some more paint, and then I'm going to carry this dark cloud like this, right? And then going to fade it out. So I don't have a plan. Now you could use your finger to do blending. Something like that, okay? And I'm not going to go too far down because I like some of the colors, the background colors, the way we made it. Okay, I like that. So I'm gonna continue on and maybe add another lighter cloud right in here. And because my brush has some water, it's not, it's easy to blend it in with the background color, okay? So something like this, okay? Now we're gonna continue and add a few darker ones in here. So I'm going to pick this one up. And you can see I don't really have a plan. Have fun with it. Swirl it, blend it out. Start with a little bit of, a little cloud, and then you can always gradually make it even bigger. Okay. So I'm going to add some red in here and then fade it out. Something like that, okay? So now I'm going to, before I continue going up, I'm going to quickly clean my brush, mix it in with this pink again. And I want to add it on some of these because the light is hitting these clouds, so I want to make sure it blends in with my dark nicely. So maybe fade it out like that, who knows. Okay, maybe some of the pink goes in here and makes some of these darker. Who knows? I'm going to clean my brush out. Maybe mix it in with the yellow a little bit, because now I'm going into a lighter zone. You see what I'm doing? I'm fading it from light, because this is the lightest area, to the darker ones, and then maybe have some far away lighter ones here, like that. Okay, there is no right or wrong. Remember that. All right, now we can continue. And we're gonna go back to, well, let's add a little bit in here. I think I want to blend this area a little bit more. So I'm going to use a little bit of the yellow and blend it out. Now my brush is always damp, and that's why it's easier to blend. Okay, keep that in mind. Alright, now we can continue. So I'm going to clean my brush. We can continue with this darker color, right? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this darker color, and following my pattern right here, maybe have it attached to this pink. But I'm going to create some of the darker areas right in here. See, I'm kind of following the dark area. You see this dark area and this dark area? So I'm going to add this darker and make it a little more intense, right? But again, play with the colors. Leave some of that light background color that we have mixed. It's very nice. And create your shapes first. And then you can go back and add more detail later. And I'm going to fade it out. Like that. Okay? Something like that. I'm going to continue, and you could see I'm randomly adding in. So I'm going to dab my brush in the water. Use this color again. I think I want to add some red in here. Maybe it's separated. Who knows? Maybe it broke apart, right? I want to make it more interesting looking. Okay, there you go. Something like that. Now, I'm going to make it wider, because as it goes up here, it becomes darker up in here, and a little bit wider and bigger. So that's why I'm going to cover this area a little bit, like that. And then here, I'm going to add some darker ones right in here. All right. Make sure your brush is damp. And I'm going to continue and add some darker ones. Have fun with this. Have fun with your sky. And maybe some in here. And I'm swirling my brush and blending those colors out to the background color. So let's give this one some darker tones. We want this sky to look very dramatic. Maybe after the storm, right? Okay, now I'm going to mix it in with this pink a little bit and add some lighter ones right in here. So I'm going to dab my brush in the water and mix it in a little bit with the pink. And I want to make this a little bigger. And I want to bring it down. You see how I'm following these patterns and connecting them to my clouds right here. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Just make sure your brush is damp. Maybe some in here. Why not, right? And maybe some in here. Light ones. Trying to balance it out, you know. But I'm also not trying to cover too much of the background because I like the way it turned out. Now this canvas, like I said, it is a little bit more sharper, and it's so important to use, you know, I think in my opinion, to, if you're painting, you know, something that you want to keep for yourself for a while, or if you're practicing, it doesn't really matter, but if you're creating something that you want to keep, or I recommend you buying a little bit of a better quality canvas. Usually it says, you know, either handmade canvas, or the easiest way to find out if it's good quality canvas is honestly the price range. Like obviously if you buy cheaper canvas, it's not going to be as a good quality canvas, right? But a higher quality canvas will be easier to blend and work with. So just keep that in mind for future if you are interested in creating a piece that you want to keep. Highly recommend a better quality canvas, easier to work with. But you can make these work as well. So I'm going to connect some of these areas, and I want to make it a little bigger here because these are closer, right? Closer to you, and we want to make sure it's, you know, more darker and bigger here, but not covering everything. I'm actually going to create another shade to darken some of these. But before I do, I want to quickly finish laying everything out. So I'm going to mix it in and play around with these colors. Mix it in. Make sure whenever you're going from lighter color to dark, make sure you're using the pink and the yellows, you know, right here, transitioning to the dark. And that's basically what it is. So for example, here I'm going to dab my brush in the water because it's a little bit drying. And I'm going to, and make sure you're creating that, you know, that almost like a smile, right? So make sure you're creating that, because then it really makes it look like you're going in the painting. You see, I'm shaping out my clouds and looking, you know, adding in wherever I want them to be first, and then I'll come back and detail the rest. So maybe a few more red in here, far away ones. Who knows, right? Like that. And then I'm gonna play around with this and the pink and connect this right in here. Right? Does not have to be perfect. Let it naturally happen. You could see I'm going with the flow. So now this part, I want to make it a little darker, and you see this right here? I'm going to connect that right in here and go up. And maybe some of these I'm going to leave it a little bit open. Who knows? So I'm going to dab my brush in the water again, use this pink, and connect it lightly. Maybe that's good right there. I'm going to leave this a little bit open for fun. Cover some of this a little bit. So now I'm going to dab my brush lightly and use some of this pink to add it right underneath some of these. To take away the roughness. So I'm going underneath and adding that light pink so that it won't be so rough, right? Dab it in the water. Something like that. Okay, now we got the shape of our clouds. You could see it's a rough shape, right? And you could see some of these are not that dark yet, so we're gonna actually add even darker color to it. So what we're gonna do is add some more blue, ultramarine blue, and a touch of black. Okay, now we're gonna add a few more details, and then we will add even more details to our clouds, and then we will continue. So this is what I have. I added a little more blue and a touch of black. I'm gonna mix it in with the last leftover colors here, and it's very dark now, so I don't want it to be super black yet, because we're gonna add the palm trees, like I said, and I want them to stand out. Okay, so I'm going to actually add, so what I'm gonna do is add a little bit of white to dim the darkness. A small touch of white right there. Still pretty dark, but I'm going to use it for fun. So I'm going to use my number 8 and dab it in the water like we did with our number 4, right? Dab it in the water, squeeze it out so it could be nice and damp right there. And we're going to take part of this color. Okay, make sure your brush is damp. And we're going to add some of the darker ones right on top. Okay, and blend it out. All right, don't be afraid to add that dark color. Maybe it breaks apart and goes up in here, who knows? But do not be afraid. If it looks a little sharp, that's totally fine, okay? Sometimes it helps to soften the colors, and when you did that, you take one of your dry blending brushes. Okay, mine is already dry. I use lightly a paper towel to swirl it gently, and every time I clean my brush, then it just makes it fluffy again, because if you clean it and squeeze it and you leave it pointy, it dries off pointy, you know. So make sure you dry it off and fluff it back up like this, and you can blend those dark colors upwards, I mean, like this. All right, so it's still creating the dark areas, but it's not so dramatic, right? So I'm gonna add some red in here, maybe some red in here. So make sure your brush is a little damp, nice and damp. Add some red in here, maybe some in here. Make some of these stand out for fun. So now I'm going to clean it with the blending brush, lightly press and pull the paint up like this, and continue. So as you get lower, I'm going to actually switch my brush to the smaller one, because I like how I can go in and add more details without spreading the paint too much. But here I want to connect some of these and, you know, make them a little bigger and spread the colors out a little more. For example, like this. Follow your shapes, it'll naturally occur. And connect them. All right. And I'm going to add this area a little more darker. dab my brush in the water and maybe start connecting some of these. Maybe this is a little darker. Like that. Now I'm going to make some of these stand out a little more, maybe in here. Add the darker tones right in here. I'm going to cover some of this like this. I want this to be pretty dark in here. But totally up to you. Blending it in with my pink that I added. Right? Maybe some in here. Some of these darker tones. And I'm going to make this stand out a little more. Something like that. Okay. Blend some of these in. I don't want it to be too dramatic right in here. It's a little too busy. So now I'm going to clean my brush and add a little bit of this pink to this orange right in here. All right, something like that. And a few more darker areas right in here. this down a little bit with pink. And I'm just playing with colors now. Alright, so now I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to add some white now for fun. So I added, clean my brush, use the same brush but with white, maybe a touch of yellow to create a nice glow. Okay, but mainly white. And we're going to add some of these white areas underneath some of these clouds. Okay, right underneath. Doesn't have to be perfect. Whoopsie, that's okay. Well, created a little smudge right there, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is add a little bit of this, white and yellow. Add some highlights, because the light is hitting some of these clouds, so it creates a nice glow. So maybe even put it in there, who cares if you made that little mistake. Maybe it goes down here a little bit. And I'm playing with water and a little bit of white. I'm going to continue and following the patterns, randomly adding it right outside my clouds on some of them. Does not have to be perfect. So I'm going to dab my brush lightly in the water, just a tip. And continue. Maybe some in here. Maybe it goes right in here. And this area is a little bit wider, right? Who knows? Dabbing my brush in the water again. Make sure I don't have too much of the water. And I'm going to continue adding this white. Cut some like that. Maybe cut it in like this. Who cares? Cut it in, have fun with this. And you don't have to rush, take your time. There is no right or wrong. Take your time on your clouds. Totally up to you. a little bit of white and water. Alright, you can go on and on, you know, detailing your sky like this. It's just going back and forth, honestly, with colors. Using the same color palette that you have here and adding your lights and darks. And if you if you added a little too much, for example, this blue, remember we have mixed, you can go back with this blue and add it in, you know, wherever you want the blue to stand out a little more. Okay, it's usually further out right here. Maybe this blue's standing out right in here. Totally up to you. Add that blue with water. So let's play around, and I dab my brush in the water and add the blue, for example, right in here. Let's make this area a little lighter, right? Then fade it out, maybe in here too. Blend it out, have fun with this. Maybe a little blue in here. Okay, like I said, you could go on and on, even with a detail brush, go over some of these lighter areas if you want. For example, dab my detail brush in the water, and you can go over either with the white, maybe mix it in with the yellow, whatever color you want to use. Maybe the white with a little bit of yellow, right? That's what I like to do. And I swirl my brush, and with water and a little bit of this color, you can go back and really get some of these clouds, you know, defined more, and go back and create whatever you'd like, you know what I mean? Totally up to you. You could spend hours and hours on this, connecting your lights, and maybe you don't want to do it everywhere, but maybe some in here, who knows? Totally up to you. And that really makes your painting stand out. Maybe not everywhere. For example, here I want to make this stand out a little more. So I'm going to connect it like that. And I like to use my finger to blend the colors out. Maybe this area. You know. Go over and have fun with this. And I'm adding on the bottom because the light is hitting from here on the bottom of these clouds. So I'm going to connect here. I'm going to make this a little sharper. Maybe cut through right in here. Like I said, you don't want to do it everywhere. Only on some of the areas, some of these clouds. And maybe in here. All right, I'm gonna stop. You know, obviously, like I said, you can add as much as you want with the detail brush and go in and add your highlights and go back and forth with your lights and darks. And you can dim some of these out, make them softer, and spend a lot of time. Totally up to you. You can come back to that later. But I recommend quickly, you know, laying it down, and then once you have it laid down, you can go on and add more detail, and then after your whole painting is done, you can step back and really look at the picture and always come back, and you can always add whatever you want, any details in the sky or, you know, in the water, totally up to you. But let's continue to save time. So this is what I have. I've got some yellow and a little bit of red, and then blue and a touch of black and white. Okay, I'm gonna mix this one first. It's going to be a dark, like a dark gray leaning towards blue color. And because it's the evening, our water is going to be very dark. It's not going to be as blue, okay? So this is one of the shades we're creating for our ocean color. All right, it's like a gray blue color. So I'm going to take part of this color and add a little more blue to it and some white. So as you can see, I took a part and added more blue and a touch of white. I want to make it a little lighter and more blue. So about there. That's good enough right there. We can always add more colors later. But quickly blend it in. Don't spend too much time because we're just adding our base. And then what we're going to do is, you know, mix this color right here. And we're going to add, this will be our, maybe take part of this. Doesn't matter, take part of this. We want to make it a little bit colorful, but leaning towards brown. That'll be our sandy area right here, but we want it to look like this. So basically I added red and yellow, and then take part of this darker blue, just a little bit, to create it into like a brown color, okay? Like this. Okay, first thing, I'm gonna create my horizon line. So I'm gonna take my number or 1/2 inch brush and dab it in the water all the way. And then I'm going to use this light blue first. And I'm going to create a horizon line. Now you could use masking tape to do this. You can, you know, tape your mat. Actually, you know what? I never actually showed it here on YouTube, but if you have this, I'll show it to you. Usually I just paint straight on and then I correct it as I go. But I never actually did this before, but I wanted to show you. For example, if you do have masking tape, go all the way right? And we're gonna find our horizon line. And you can cut in a little bit, for example, right about there. And make sure, what you could do is sometimes you can measure from here to here and make sure you're getting it, even. So about there, like that. All right, and make sure you're basically press the bottom part right here. Make sure it's fully taped. You could, use your nail to fully tape that, just the bottom right here, right? And don't worry about taping the top. And now we're gonna, pick up our 1/2 inch brush, and I dabbed it in the water and also dried it onto paper towel so it won't be too wet. And I'm going to use this paint, this lighter blue paint right here that we have mixed, and I'm going to quickly draw it out right in here. Okay, quickly. And make sure your brush isn't too isn't too wet, because if you have water, sometimes water can make this tape loose and can create like rough once you peel it off. This, you want to just use mainly paint for this part. Paint, and then now this part we're gonna create landscape, so this part doesn't matter, so you don't have to really focus on going all the way, but mainly this right here is the part where we want it to be covered, right? So now once we have that added in there, now we can take it off, and you peel it off like going downwards like this, lightly, and peel it off. Now this canvas is a little bit rough, so it's very bumpy, so you could see far away it created some of the not as sharp edges, right? You could see they're very sharp, but that could be like far away islands or little boats or whatever, totally fine. That's totally fine. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm not even going to correct it. In fact, you can even add more further away islands and things like that, but we're not going to focus on that today. Let's continue on with adding our ocean color. So we're going to have our land be, let's say our land is going to be, I'm going to add a few palm trees right in here. So I'm going to create our land right in here, right? This is where it's going to go up, and then it's just going to go up all the way, and it'll fade out probably something like this, our land. So I'm just sketching it out real quick so we know where to draw our beach, for example. I'm going to draw it like this, and then I'm going to bring it down and maybe actually even make it more at an angle, so maybe like this, and it ends off right there. So this is going to be where our ocean ends, and this is where the foam will be. Now if you don't like it, you can always correct it as you go. So I'm thinking, do I like the shape of my ocean? Maybe like this. This is important that you sketch it out first And then, so maybe I'll actually even go further in. Maybe like this. Who knows? Let it go in. And end somewhere like that, okay? So we'll correct it as we go, but I just sketched it out to kind of get myself an idea where I want my ocean to end. All right, so I'm gonna continue on and I'm gonna add this light blue that we have. I'm gonna add it right in here. First I'm gonna cover everything. So if you have your blending brush, one of your wet blending brushes, that'll be actually easier. So I'm going to dab it in the water, one of my blending brushes, squeeze it out, and what I'm going to do is pick up this color, and as a base we are randomly adding that in there. So I'm going to dab it again, pick it up and add it in there, and then pick up your darker one and cover the rest. It does not have to be perfect. Okay, be careful not to. Don't worry about covering everything because we are gonna add details to it later, to the ocean. But we want this darker area right in here, roughly like this, right? And then I'm gonna dab my brush, and remember this color we have added. Let's mix it in with the blue right in here. Mix it in, all in with the blue. So maybe I even add some white. Let's add some white because I don't want it to be too dark. So a simple white color right here. Let's pick it up and add it right in here. White, and then carry that rest of that color, right? Take it all, doesn't matter. Maybe even take the part of this darker color right in here. Take it all and cover all that in nicely like this. Really rough blend right here. We just wanted a nice base. And now you can use your dry blending brush. And here I'm gonna go back and forth lightly. This does not have to be perfect. The ocean's gonna be rough. Okay, so, but I do wanna take away a little bit of the brush strokes. So I'm gonna blend in lightly like this. And then here I'm just gonna swirl lightly like we did with the clouds. And swirl it and blend everything, all these colors in. Let it naturally happen the way they happen. Okay, something like this. There you go. A quick blend right there of the colors. Now I'm going to use my hairbrush dry to quickly dry this out. Okay, so now we have the base, ocean and ground here, the sand, right? Now we can add some details, and what I'm going to do first is add my pick up my number 4 brush and add, let's just use this dark color, right? And add my land here. So my land is going to be right about in here, something like that. Does not have to be perfect. Just cover that up with the dark color here. Right. And I'm actually going to bring it in right in here a bit like this. Something like this. Maybe use some of this brown color here, and who knows, add it in here. Blend it in. Randomly like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, we're going to add some palm trees right in here, but we'll do that later. Let's focus on the ocean now. I just wanted to add that land right in there really quickly. Now I'm going to pick up my 1/2 inch brush, dab it in the water, and this time I'm going to use some of the pink right here that I have. Okay, remember this pink that we had for the sky? And if you ran out, it's just white and red. And I'm going to use it with a little bit of water onto my brush and this color, and I'm going to create little waves, you know, faraway waves. Maybe start from here. I'm going to maybe lightly dab it from far away. Lightly dab it, very small. Does not have to be perfect. And then now as I get closer, I'm going to make them a little wider and bigger. And I'm going to go back and forth. With water and this pink. Okay. Now as it gets closer, I'm going to dab my brush in the water again and pick up some more. I'm going to make them a little wider. So remember we added our shape. We want to create that shape. So remember, somewhere right in here. And then it goes in. Doesn't have to be perfect because this area we will come back, you know, and detail it later, but I'm shaping it out first. And this is where the foam will be, right? Right in here. Something like this. So I'm going to continue adding a few more of these waves. Now I can spend a lot of time on the ocean and really make it look detailed. But today, I'm going to do a simple, add a few details of course, but not spend too much time. Maybe get a layout like I did with the sky, right? And then it's totally up to you then to add as much as you want. So maybe you can add more than I did. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing, but remember with this dark color right here, I'm going to go back and dab my brush in the water and use this dark color right here. And I'm going to create some far away, first dab it in, maybe, and of course, as it gets closer, it'll be a little darker, right? Dab my brush in the water using the same color. I'm going over some of these. Does not have to be perfect. Just shape it out first. Right underneath where we added the foam, I'm going to add this shadow, and then we're going to come back and detail it some more later. That's where our foam and our shadow will be. Okay, for now, let's mix a little bit more of color. And we're going to add some white and another 2 whites, small amount, and then a little bit of blue. I'll show you. So just white by itself and a little bit of white and blue, and mix that in. Okay, mix that in. We want a light blue color, like this. Does not have to be perfect, like I said. And we're going to pick up our number 2 brush, or I mean number 4 artist loft brush right here. I'm going to clean it out with water and dry it out with a paper towel. And I'm going to use this light blue one first. I'm going to create some ripples and some foam going on. I'm going to dab it in the water lightly and create foam right in here. Start off with this first. light blue. Barely touching the canvas and outlining where I'd like my foam to be. Something like that. We'll add more details to it, of course, but for now, let's move on. Let's move on and connect some of these. So you know how the foam is very bright. From the light. Barely pressing the canvas. So I'm going to dab it in the water. And first use this blue, right? So here I'm going to make some of these a little bit more brighter because of the light. So the light's coming in right in here. I want to make this area a little bit more brighter, right? So I'm going to add that light blue underneath. Dab my brush in water again and continue on. Maybe there's some waves in here crashing like this. Right? Maybe there's some in here as well. Who knows? You make it up. Maybe there's a wave, a little one in here, coming in. And I'll add some far away waves, further ones in the distance. And I'm going to fade it out. Now I'm going to use some of the white and add the white right on top a little bit of some of these where you added your wave, right? Crashing. Just on top of your wave. And it may be a little bit here, but let it fade out. So I'm not going to add it further up there. Something like this, okay? Alright, now let's mix some more colors. Now let's mix a little bit of red and black. Let's mix it in maybe with a little bit of this blue. It's going to be very dark so you won't see it. Mix it in with a little bit of the blue, right? And the reason why I added red because my sky is very pink and I want to add a little bit of the dark red with my number 4 right underneath these waves right in here as the shadow, right? So make sure you add the dark tones. So I added a little bit of dark right in here. I want this to be faded from light to darker area right in here. Okay, and then continue adding this dark underneath this wave. And bring it out. Something like that, and then let's continue right here. I'm not going to go all the way. I want that area to be faded, right? I want the darker areas to be mainly in here. So I'm going to continue adding details to my water. this area is going to be a little bit dark. Who knows? It's all about layers and details. The more you put, the more the painting starts to pop to you, you know? So maybe a few more right in here. And we're gonna work on this area with the detail brush a little more, you know, in here, but just to create some shadows and like that. In our water, I wanted to add a little bit of the shadows, right? Okay, now we can, I want to make this area, since the light is hitting this area, right? I want to make it a little bit brighter. So what I'm going to do is clean my palette knife, and you see this white that we have? I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow, just a small amount of yellow, and a touch of red. I want to make that area a little bit brighter, right? So I'll show you exactly how much. I added a touch of yellow and a little bit of red. I'm not going to use all of it. Part of the yellow and a little bit of the red. I don't want a lot. I want it to be like this. Like a nice, almost like a peachy color, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but something like this, okay? So let's pick up our number 4 and dab it in the water and use this color. And we're going to add some highlights right in here into our sand. Okay, I'm gonna add it right in our sand, and I want some of these areas to be super bright. So I'm gonna let it go like this and create like a nice glow and fade it out like this. So this is where I want to blend it in straight to the ocean like this. You could use your finger if you want. So I'm going to blend that from the light, remember. From the light, it comes down. And I want to blend it in with the pink. So I'm going to use more of it here. And as I go down, so I'm going to have this faded, right? It's going to be faded in here. So my brush is down. As I go down, I'm going to add some pink. So I'm going to dab it in the water and add this red. Maybe even mix it in with the yellow. You know, whatever color, but we just wanted it to be more pink. And add it in there like this. Don't be shy. Add it all in there. I'll fade it out, and let's even add more red. I want this to really stand out because of the glow from the water and the sky into the sand, right? So I'm going to dab it in the water again, pick up more of this color. Let it fade it out in here, but here I'm going to add more red. So maybe make this a little darker red in here. Who knows? Let's make it colorful, yeah? Let's make it nice and colorful. I'm going to switch to to my number 8 brush, and I added a little bit of blue here, so you could see this blue, and I'm going to use this blue and mix it in with the this red that we added, right? And go all the way to the top right here. And of course you can then use a little bit of the black, because I want this area to be super dark, right? So straight black right out of the tube. We want to add, I dab my brush in the water, and I want to add black here, right where the foam ends. Okay, and since our brush is a little wet, it works great. You know, where your foam will be, and a little bit of the black. Something like this. There you go. Now we're going to continue, and we're going to add some more color to, so we're going to switch to number 4 again, and we're going to continue, and I want to go a little bit even higher right in here and fade it out like this. But I want to add this area even brighter. Maybe even make it and of course maybe add some yellow because of the sun hitting it. Maybe that's a little too much, that's okay. So a little bit of yellow mixed in. Play around with the colors. There you go, that's nice, much better. And play around, go back and forth. I dab my brush in the water and use that yellow orangey color and add some shadows. From the light. So I'm going to bring it down, fade it out right in here, maybe lightly have it go down like this. There you go, something like that. Okay, we're going to come back to that, but I want to make this area now darker. So what I'm going to do is pick up my number 8 again because it's a little bigger, and we're going to use some of this blue, right? I'm going to add it right in here. I want this area to be pretty dark. You can see I have water in there, a little maybe too much, but that's okay. I'm going to use that blue, and then whatever color you have available, dark color you have available, doesn't really matter. You want to really cover this with black, maybe have the black added right in here. Maybe it's so dark that you can't even see it, and fade it out like this. dab my brush in the water, clean it up a bit, use a little bit of the blue, go in here, and fade it out. Now, I like to use my dry blending brush to smooth it all in, right? I like to do that. So I'm going to use one of my dry blending brushes and make sure, you know, it's almost dry, but that's okay. And if it's a little wet, and lightly blend in so it could be smoother. But even if it looks rough, that's okay, because this is sand, right? We don't really care too much to trying to make it smooth. Make it look rough, like this. Very nice and easy. There you go. And once it dries, it'll look even better. All right. Now we can continue, and before adding more details to anything else, I want to add some details to my foam and ocean here. So let's take some more white for the foam, and we're going to add some details to our foam, make it look nicer. And maybe take part of this blue, not all of it, part of it, mix it in. You know, so it can be very, very light blue. And if you have a little bit of some other color, that's fine. We just want a light blue color, like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. And with a detail brush, I'm going to dab it in the water and spend a little time using water and swirling my paint, this color right here, like this. And we're going to start from here and really add the details to our foam, right? So for example, let's just start from here and maybe far away like this, who knows. Fade it out. Maybe it goes in here. Comes in here. Now there's different ways of doing this, and whatever you want your ocean to look like, totally up to you. But I am just going with what I think looks good for me, and you should do the same. So I'm going to draw the shape of my foam, dab my brush in the water so it can run smooth. Maybe bring it up a little bit like this. Because of the light, you know, and it's reflecting. Maybe it went all the way up and it's coming down now, you know, so. So quickly draw it out. Does not have to be perfect. Okay. continue. Now here, we want to connect some of these. So I'm going to add some longer ones. So now I'm going to switch to number 4 and dab it in the water, some white, and I'm going to, you know, dab in here where the foam is. And fade it out. Blend a little bit of that foam in. Maybe add some white highlights like this. Bring it out a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to use a little bit of the black and blue. Black and blue. Mix it in. It's going to be very dark. And I'm going to add some in my water here. Make this area a little bit more darker. And we want to leave that area light, but this area can be a little darker, so I'm going to dim it down actually. I'm going to use my number 8 brush and do the same thing with this dark and blue. I want to dim this out right here, make it darker. And here too. Even if you cover some of this, that's totally fine. I'm going to use my blending brush to smooth everything out, but I want this area to be pretty dark. You almost can't tell what's going on. And then fade it to the light area because of the sun and the way it's. Maybe cover some of this foam. I want this to be dark. Alright, and with a dry blending brush, we're gonna lightly swirl and blend it all in nicely, like that. Okay, now we'll come back to adding more details, but let's add a little bit of this black and blue and add that underneath this foam. There's shadows, so we want to add that black underneath, maybe even pull of it out, some of it out like this. Right underneath the foam. Like that. Some of it's going to be a little darker as it goes in here. And then as you get further, you can do that with a detail brush. Black and a little bit of blue, and go over, and not everywhere, but maybe it comes all the way up right in here. So I'm going to dab my brush in the water and create some straight, use my finger as well, and create some shadows right underneath this one as well. So white and some water and this color a little bit, and it's back and forth. Maybe make it a little darker right in here. Totally up to you, okay? Something like that. Maybe a few more for fun. Some straight lines like that. There you go. That's much better. Okay, now I want to go over some of these. So with the blue and the black, continue on, and I want to go over some of these, the tops of these, lightly. Maybe create like a darker, shadows. And this is where you go in with just the black and you add even more detail in your ocean. maybe add it in here. Lightly. Maybe some connecting with this. Who knows, right? Totally up to you. Maybe there's some rocks, little rocks. Like that. Maybe there's something right in here in the water. Who knows? Maybe with your number 4 and a little bit of this color that we have mixed. It is a little bit of red and black, remember, and some water. Very lightly go in and bring some of these down. Very lightly. That's good enough. Okay, I'm gonna go over again and add this blue. Remember this blue that we have mixed? Maybe take part of the white, and I'm going to dab in and create a little more detail to my foam and waves. Make them a little brighter since I darken this area again. And I'm going to go back and forth and make sure, you know, I add all the details that I want. So maybe this goes lightly. make this a little foamier. And it's just back and forth, back and forth. Maybe add some lighter areas right in here. On your landscape. Who knows? Like this. Okay, we're gonna come back. This is a quick sketch of the water and the land here. Let's add a few palm trees and we'll call it good. Again, you can always come back and detail whatever you want later as we, once we're done laying everything out. Totally up to you. So what I've got here is black and a little bit of red. I added a touch of white. I don't want it to be super dark, so I added a little bit of white, very small amount, but I wanted this to be very dark, okay? Very, very dark. So it's almost like this color. Maybe even take more black. It's gonna be super dark, right? I'm actually going to add a little more black because I really do want to make it stand out. So let's add a little more black and mix it in. That's good. And now I'm going to use my 1/2 inch brush and I'm gonna clean it out and use this color. Make sure it's nice and thin. And let's create some palm trees. Let's add one that will be right about this high. Let it go in like that. And then let's add one that is right in here. Okay, let's add a further one. Maybe there's one in the distance. Let's add a bigger one right about here. Okay, and a few more small ones. And the big one. Something like that. I'm going to use my detail brush again and create, make sure it's a little wet, create some palm trees. So I'm going to pull it out gently. Okay, it does not have to be perfect. We can come back with the detail brush later. Something like that. We'll come back to that one. Let's quickly sketch them out. sand it like this, and maybe this goes up a little higher. Who knows? Something like that. Let's add this one a little bit wider. You decide how many you want. Maybe you don't even want a lot. Okay, that's good enough. Now I can come back to my detail brush right here and detail those. So I'm going to clean it out using the same color, very simple, and water, and go back and, you can go back and really make some of these stand out. Totally up to you. Alright, I'll be done for today. We got the, the basic layout of our image. Now we could take a break. We could come back to this image tomorrow, and add details to the clouds, to our water, to our land here, to the trees. Totally up to you. Have fun with this. See what you can create. Spend as much time as you want. Do it in your own style. There's no right or wrong. If you move a cloud a little bit to the left or to the right, you won't get in trouble. Have fun. Thank you for tuning in. Please let me know what you thought down below in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe and share if this was helpful. And again, I appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed this and took something out of this, and this was helpful for you. All right, guys, take care and God bless. See you soon.